Hello, everybody, and welcome back once again. We are looking at EUIC VGC gameplay here, and we are finally to the Masters Top Cut bracket. This is not quite top 32. The math gets a little bit wonky when you're going into Top Cut after this, so it will be officially top 16. So, coming into this, basically, if you have I believe that you have 2 or fewer losses, you're essentially in Top Cut. So that 10-win threshold, we were talking about it before in the previous rounds. That's what everybody's trying to hit to get into Top Cut and keep playing essentially into now these single elimination rounds. So coming into this game, we have some pretty exciting players here. Maynard and Jimenez Coll. We're going to go ahead and click play here. And as you can see here, you got a little bit of a sneak peek. I'm super excited for this matchup. We've been seeing some actually pretty standard teams these last few rounds. It seems like other than Wolfglick's Perish Trap team, mostly tried and true stuff has been seeing success here, and we see that again with Maynard here. Calyrex Shadow Rider, this isn't the Choice Specs variant, it isn't the Draining Kiss variant, this is Life Orb and Terra Dark, which has been something we've seen pretty consistently along with that Nasty Plot. Chiyu with the Choice Scarf here, not Choice Specs, with Terra Ghost. Terra Water Rillaboom, notably, a lot of times you see Terra Fire, but Terra Water is the choice here. Fluttermane with Terra Grass, Booster Energy, and some supportive moves. Urshifu Rapid Strike with that pretty standard, pretty traditional for Urshifu, kind of full offense build with that stellar terrestrialization. And then you have Terrifier, Amoonguss with Rocky Helmet, Sludge Bomb Spore, Rage Powder, and Protect here. Everything is pretty much par for the course here. We could see some pretty interesting stats. It is more of a supportive Fluttermane than an offensive Fluttermane. We've been seeing some offensive Fluttermanes here and there, but this Pokemon is super flexible and can do a ton of things. One thing that I really would want to keep an eye out for in this matchup is where Matt brings the Stellar Urshifu. I don't know if we'll see the Stellar Terrestrialization, but I feel like, and you'll see why in a second, I feel like this Urshifu with those critical hit Surging Strikes could really come in pretty big in this matchup. That said, at the same time, it might do absolutely nothing, and Matt will have a much better idea of how to play this matchup, although it is definitely one of those more interesting ones. So, we have Koraidon here. Protect, Flare Blitz, Collision Course, and Dragon Claw, as well as Ability Shield. That is not something that we see a lot of, but Ability Shield, you can't be intimidated if you're the Koraidon, which is pretty big, or affected by a lot of other things, including by Galarian Weezing's Neutralizing Gas. This is a super fun interaction here. This is a super supportive Galarian Weezing, Strange Steam, Toxic Spikes, and Poison Gas. It's honestly pretty standard for what we've seen for Galarian Weezing, but Neutralizing Glass, thanks to the Ability Shield, does not turn off Orichalcum Pulse, so Koraidon can still get its work done if it needs to. And then rounding it out, we have Chiyu Fluttermane, a very tried and true combo. This is an offensive Fluttermane with the Choice Specs, Terra Fairy, Dazzling Gleam, Shadow Ball, Moonblast, and Icy Wind. And then you have Dondozo and Tatsugiri. This is a Safety Goggles Tatsugiri with a pretty good amount of offensive pressure with Protect, Draco Meteor, Muddy Water, and Hydro Pump. And this is a very bulky Dondozo with Rest Talk, Rest and Sleep Talk, along with Order Up and Earthquake. Dondozo is Terra Ground along with that Rocky Helmet. So this could be a super interesting matchup. Ability Shield comes in play in a lot of varying ways. Notably, I am unsure of how Ability Shield and Unseen Fist interact. I'm not sure if Unseen Fist specifically is about the move Protect, or if Ability Shield would block that somehow. I honestly have no idea. I'm super excited to find that out. But Victor does not have to deal with an Incineroar. Like, Intimidate's a really big thing, and Koraidon simply doesn't have to deal with that. Ability Shield would also block things, I believe, like Flame Body if something had that. Like, we've seen Volcaronas or things along those lines have Flame Body, which have been pretty big. But that Ability Shield Galarian Weezing synergy here is something I am looking forward to. And honestly, I might steal that for myself in future games that I play. So coming into this, I'm super excited to see what Matt brings to try to answer this, because when you have a standard Pokemon team and you're up against some of this wild stuff, how a good player leads against these wild things is really good to take away for your own gameplay on the ladder. And we see Matt lead with Fluttermane and Shadow Rider Calyrex here. So neither of these care about Collision Course coming out of the Koraidon. Fluttermane does not really care about that Dragon Claw, but Flare Blitz is still very strong, and Shadow Rider and Fluttermane both for Matt do not really want to deal with this Fluttermane. Photosynthesis boosts do have activated on both sides of the field now, although we are going to see Victor likely, both Fluttermanes could be pretty fast here, but whenever you go for a more supportive type Pokemon, usually you're going to be a little bit bulkier, and we talked about this a little bit with kind of how bulky Miraidon works. A bulkier Miraidon is usually going to be a slower Miraidon. A lot of times you're not sacrificing attack stats to become bulkier when you have really good attack and you can take a big advantage of it. A lot of times you're sacrificing your speed stats. So if you're Matt here, I would potentially be a little bit worried about having to deal with what is likely a faster Fluttermane. But it's all going to come down to what we see here. We do see Victor's Fluttermane get the Icy Wind off first. That's essentially going to guarantee that even if it was a speed tie, Matt's Fluttermane is going to be the slower of the two, at least for now. Now, this is choice specs on Victor's Fluttermane, so it's only going to be clicking Icy Wind, but that does take down Matt's Fluttermane in a pretty clean 2-hit KO with that effective double up, spread move into double up. And now Matt is in a bit of a pickle. Matt knows what exactly the Fluttermane is using with the choice specs, which could be pretty big here. Amoonguss will take super effective damage from that unless it terastallizes. But if Amoonguss does terastallize here, get some pretty good resistances off, that gives Calyrex an opportunity to do some good damage here. Koraidon didn't terastallize for Victor, and that means if it doesn't terastallize on this turn, a Psychic would do a ton of damage into it. Victor could also switch or just go for a Protect, anything along those lines. There are definitely options to avoid getting hit by the Psychic. And also, if you're Victor, you could make the call again that this Calyrex is not going to be attacking into that slot, at least not with any super effective damage. But the big thing for Matt is Matt will not be taking super effective Ghost type damage into the Calyrex spot right now. We see the Fluttermane get switched out. Victor wants to go ahead and get that off the battlefield and give it an opportunity to come back on later to reset its move. Chiyu's Beads of Ruin are on the field now. That it could also be really, really big. We see the Protect come out of the Koraidon, blocking any potential Psychics here, and Amoonguss goes for Rage Powder. It's not going to be drawing in anything, as nothing on Victor's side is attacking, but I'm very interested to see what Matt goes for, and it is going to be that Astral Barrage. Chiyu does resist it thanks to its Dark typing, but this is going to be quite a bit of damage still. Calyrex is no joke, especially with that Life Orb. Does about a third to the Chiyu, and with that Life Orb damage, this does put Calyrex in a bit of a pickle. It does not want to be taking super effective damage from the Chiyu with a potential Dark Pulse, but at the same time, a Heat Wave here could do absolute work against the Amoonguss. Now, this Chiyu is going to be Choice Scarf. It's absolutely going to be the fastest thing on the field, and the question is going to be, what is Victor going to click? There are two choice items for Victor's side that does provide a lot of damage and a lot of speed for Victor, but once Matt knows what move Victor is going to pull out, it narrows a ton of options down. So, on this turn, with Matt not knowing which move this Chiyu is going to go for, this is the riskiest part for Matt. This is the riskiest turn for Matt so far that he has come to. We see the terastallization come through for Victor here, I believe. Nope, that's Matt's terastallization. There's no terastallization for Victor. My apologies. And that is going to be Amoonguss going into Terra Fire. So it will resist any Flare Blitz or Heat Waves that come its way. And Snarl is the move that comes out, and it's a huge whiff on the Calyrex. The Snarl into the Amoonguss doesn't really matter, but not hitting that Snarl on the Calyrex is absolutely massive. It very well could have taken the Calyrex down, but with that Chiyu Beads of Ruin, that takes down the Koraidon as well, and Calyrex gets a special attack boost. The Life Orb does a little bit more damage here, and the Spore comes through onto the Chiyu, putting it to sleep. That miss completely changes the texture of this game. Victor is now in a really, really rough spot. This Amoonguss can redirect any single target action, and this Calyrex is almost guaranteed to not take any damage, at least any significant damage, from this Fluttermane. Now, Snarl from Chiyu can still come in and hit. It's still going to be the fastest thing on the field, and it's not going to get redirect. I don't know what I'm talking about. It's asleep. It's asleep. The Chiyu is sleeping. It can't do anything. It's going to go down to a potential Astral Barrage here. And again, Amoonguss can guarantee that this Calyrex does not go down this turn. If you are Victor here, you're in a really, really tough spot. You want to try to leave the Chiyu on the field so that it can wake up. Maybe if you get a one-turn sleep. I don't know what Victor has in the back, but I don't think a Dondozo wins this necessarily, at least not against an Amoonguss that can go for a Spore, and you have the Rocky Helmet that you have to contend with. Fluttermane goes for the Terra Fairy here, removing its Ghost type weakness, but even with that, with the Beads of Ruin on the field as well as a special attack boost for the Calyrex, I don't know if that matters. Fluttermane is going to go for the Dazzling Gleam. This is choice specs. This will do quite a bit, but I don't think it's going to be enough to KO. Yeah, Calyrex survives on 23 HP. I think it only will have... I don't think Calyrex knocks itself out with a Life Orb here. I believe it is just under that threshold. So I think it'll have one more attack in it if it so chooses, and that is a double KO. This Calyrex is going to be at +3 here, and unless Victor has something incredibly fast with a spread move, this Calyrex is going to survive just fine. Fluttermane goes down, and that... it all comes down to that missed Snarl here. I'm interested to see... okay, so notably, this is pretty big. Life Orb does 17 damage to that Shadow Rider Calyrex. That's going to be something to keep in mind. And it's just the Galarian wheezing in the back. Victor bringing out the dapper gentleman just at the very end here. Unfortunately, that pretty much guarantees that Matt is going to be A-okay here. Calyrex goes for the sidekick. This is going to be pretty... I mean, it's not going to be pretty important. It's super effective. And the wheezing hangs on with its focus sash. This gives Victor a little bit of time to strategize going into game number 2 here. But at the same time, if you're Victor, as long as you don't lose out on that Snarl again, as long as you can connect that Snarl, you feel like you're in a really good spot for this game. Moose goes for the Spore again. That guarantees the win on the next turn. But now if you're Victor, you have to contend with, okay, is that mental boom? Are you worried now about, all right, does Snarl miss again? When you put a move that can miss on your Pokemon, you simply have to deal with the fact that it can miss, and it can miss in these game-winning and game-losing scenarios. So going into this game 2, for Victor, the plan felt really, really good up until that miss, but you have to be aware of that and take that into account, where even if you do miss, you have to be able to try to come up with a backup plan there. So going into game 2, I would expect Victor to maybe change something, maybe change the order of the Pokemon that get brought out. I wouldn't be surprised if we see the same for Dondozo and Tatsugiri. Are good Pokemon. We could see them come in, just a really, really big change of strategy. And notably, we didn't see Matt bring Urshifu. I said keep an eye out for Urshifu, and Urshifu's not there. That's on me, my friends. So going into game number 2, I'm very excited to see what adaptations both of these players have made. And it looks like so far, neither player made any adaptations, and we're at the exact same spot as game number 1. Now, in game number 1, the Fluttermane for Matt went down extremely clean. There was no damage on any of Victor's Pokemon. And for Victor, you have to be thinking, okay, Matt is going to try to adapt here. Matt's going to try to probably come up with something a little bit different. If you're Victor, what is the call? That is the question. Do you go for the double swing into that Mischievous again? Do you try to go for bigger damage out of the Fluttermane? Maybe try to hit a Dazzling Gleam here and have that damage pressure on earlier. Dazzling Gleam does a lot of work for Victor. That choice specs, it does a lot of damage. Fluttermane has a lot of stats in those last 3 numbers, and it's kind of crazy. For this Koraidon, if you're Victor, you kind of want to take advantage of this ability shield, right? Like, Koraidon's item can be incredibly important here. And I want to see Victor try to take a little bit better advantage of it. We're not seeing any switch outs here, and it looks like we're seeing just the same play, essentially, as game number 1, with a little bit of a change in that Victor takes out Matt's Fluttermane with a Shadow Ball this time, not locking into that Icy Wind. Flare Blitz comes through now for the Koraidon, and it's a very similar spot to game number 1. However, this time, instead of being locked into Icy Wind, Victor is locked into Shadow Ball. We see Matt make a different adjustment here. Instead of bringing the Amoonguss, brings in the Chi-Yu. Beads of Ruin are now active for Matt again, but this time on his side of the battlefield. Now, no Icy Wind, you have Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball does not do very much of anything into the Chi-Yu, but it does a heck of a lot into the Calyrex, and Victor just says, all right, you know what? Switching out again. The Fluttermane goes into the back, and we see the Tatsugiri come out. That doesn't mean Dondozo is absolutely in here, but with this double switch out, it might mean that indeed it does. So we see Dondozo, the Rank Master, arrive onto the field. Tatsugiri commands Dondozo to raise all of its stats, doubles everything 2 times to everything it's got. This Pokemon is now incredibly bulky and decently fast and does quite a bit of damage. The main thing, though, is that it is just so hard to take down. We see Matt go for the Terastallization here. Pretty sure we saw that it was on the... Oh, nope. So Matt thought about Terastallizing the Chi-Yu, but instead goes for the Terastallized Calyrex Shadow Rider, going for that Terra Dark. That would have maximized resistance against the Shadow Ball, but... Oh, okay. So I got baited. Tatsugiri avoids the attack and a little bit of chip damage onto that Dondozo, but not a ton. Astral Barrage is going to come out now. This will do quite a bit again as well, but this Dondozo is going to be able to stick on the field for quite a while. Dondozo goes down to half HP. Notably, if it does take too much more damage, that is going to be a little bit worrying for Victor here. That does pretty much scream a 2-hit KO now, unless that just comes down to rolls. And now this Dondozo is going to have to figure out how it wants to maneuver the rest of the game. The question is, with that 2x speed, is it faster than what Matt has on the field? Chiyu gets to go for another attack. It's going to be the fastest thing on the field thanks to that Choice Scarf here, but Calyrex gets to go for Psychic. The question is that going to do enough damage? It does not. It does not, notably. That is very interesting. I wonder if the Astral Barrage would have, but I am not certain. Earthquake here is going to do quite a bit. Chiyu goes down and Calyrex goes down below half HP. Matt Maynard is left with 2 Pokemon on the field up against 4 here and can only hit 1 right now. Amoonguss isn't really going to do too much. Matt does potentially have the opportunity to try to put the Dondozo to sleep. With the Amoonguss, I don't know if Victor would want to terrestrialize the Dondozo right now. It was Terra Electric, so that really won't do anything. But if you're Matt, if you go for Spore into the Dondozo and you go for a Nasty Plot onto the Calyrex, that could be a spot where you just Nasty Plot a bunch, get your Calyrex as strong as possible, and go from there. But it looks like that is not the call. Goes for the Psychic into the Dondozo instead. That's going to make the Tatsugiri pop on out of its shell here. The Grimne is going to give it a +1, but it's going to lose a little bit more of its health here. Amoonguss uses the Sludge Bomb onto the Tatsugiri, does a good amount of damage, but does not KO it. And now the Tatsugiri is left on the field all alone, but just for the time being. It'll be getting another friend here soon, and both Koraidon and Fluttermane are going to be able to do a ton of damage. With the Fluttermane coming back in as well, it's going to have the opportunity to just click Dazzling Gleam. If you're Matt, this might be where you want to try to Spore. I'm a little bit worried though that this Amoonguss might not be able to survive a Draco Meteor plus Sludge Bomb. Or I'm sorry, not Draco Meteor plus Sludge Bomb, a Draco Meteor plus Shadow Ball. And then this Shadow Rider Calyrex is left in a pretty tough spot here. Because if the Shadow Rider Calyrex doesn't protect, it simply goes down to a Dazzling Gleam. And I don't know if you are Matt, if you can risk that. You either have to make a really, really gutsy call that there's going to be a double target into your Amoonguss, a potentially game-losing call, and that's not what Matt does. Matt goes for the Protect with the Calyrex here, anticipating that there's going to be a Dazzling Gleam, an opportunity to take out the Calyrex, but no, we see the Shadow Ball for Victor do a ton of damage into the Amoonguss here. The special defense drop could also be huge, but the Draco Meteor comes in. I don't think that would have, I don't think the special defense drop would have mattered with the Tatsugiri. The special attack drop is going to be big, but the Amoonguss goes down. That's a really hard call to make if you are Matt. If Matt does make the incredibly bold call to go for the Astral Barrage here, that very well could almost guarantee the game. But at the end of the day, Matt goes for a little bit of a safer play. Victor goes for a slightly riskier one, and Victor gets a massive, massive lead here. Switching out the Fluttermane again, this time means that even if the Koraidon and Tatsugiri both go down, Fluttermane will be able to come back in, use Dazzling Gleam. We know it's faster than the Shadow Rider Calyrex. The Astral Barrage comes through. If you're Victor, you don't even necessarily care what happens to the Koraidon here. You have a guaranteed win condition in this Fluttermane existing now that the sun is back up. Koraidon goes down, Fluttermane gets the opportunity to come in. Tatsugiri is still going to be alive, but even with these Grimne boosts, the Shadow Rider Calyrex just simply will not be able to get it done. So now, for Matt, it came down to, it might have come down to just calcs on how strong Astral Barrage versus Psychic is into those single targets. It just wasn't quite enough. It looked like it probably ended up being a roll on how Matt could have potentially taken down that Dondozo. But the Dondozo is tanky. It doesn't do a ton of damage. It doesn't necessarily have to. It did take out the Chiyu pretty cleanly, but it just is so hard to take down. Okay, and actually we see for Victor doesn't have Dazzling Gleam. I missed that on the team sheet. It is Moonblast instead. That is pretty big. Actually, it still might have Moonblast. It might have both. I'll be honest. I don't remember the team sheet exactly. But so Calyrex here, yeah, you can just try to go for infinite protects here. Matt's just, hey, maybe you can protect, stall out the Moonblasts, and then the Fluttermane is forced to struggle. I think mathematically that's impossible, but Matt's just being a little cheeky here. You play to your win cons. You do what you can here. Calyrex protects, But unfortunately, I think it literally doesn't work after the fourth one, even if you hit 3 protects in a row. So this is a little bit of stalling the devil. 3 protects in a row. Okay. I mean, at this point, if you're Matt, you just keep going for the fun of it. I mean, if you're Victor, you cheer him on a little bit. So I actually don't know how much PP Moonblast has, but protect is not going to be able to last long enough. Okay, so let's talk strategy here. Victor, you feel pretty good about this game. You ended up having a win con where your Fluttermane was faster than the Shadow Rider, and you were able to sacrifice your Koraidon and get Sun back up, which is exactly what you wanted with the Photosynthesis boost. Now, if you are Matt, Matt throws up his hands. Can't believe he didn't get the 4th protect here. Oh my gosh, what a shame, what a shame. And Calyrex finally goes down. If you are Matt, that Dondozo is incredibly bulky. Having an answer to it is going to be incredibly important. I honestly am not opposed to trying to put everything to sleep with Amoonguss, man. Dondozo is not going to be incredibly fast. If you can get a good call on the switch, put that thing to sleep, and set up a Calyrex with a bunch of nasty plots, you can go to town. But also, that's kind of Disneyland talk. So I'm interested to see what the adaptation is. We didn't see Matt make any changes from game number 1, even though it did kind of come down to a missed Snarl from Victor. And Victor is the one that actually made the adjustment. It ended up being a winning adjustment. And we're going to see how they change it up for game number 3 here. So coming into this, it feels like Victor is in a pretty good spot, and we see both players actually change it up. Victor leads the Koraidon in the Chi-Yu this time. Matt is leading the Amoonguss and the Shadow Rider. Amoonguss hates to see a Chi-Yu come in, mushrooms hate fish, and Koraidon as well, giving that Chi-Yu an additional Heat Wave boost if it so chooses. Chi-Yu's gonna be the fastest thing on the field. Calyrex doesn't want to risk a Snarl, although maybe it does. Maybe if you're Matt, you got 3 protects in a row. There was a missed Snarl in the first game. Maybe you go for the risk again. Who knows? But if you're Victor, I think you feel pretty good about going for a Snarl and potentially a Collision Course or a Flare Blitz into that Amoonguss. You would take a ton of recoil damage, but if you can get the Amoonguss KO'd, you're in a really good spot, right? Matt, having the potential threat of Spore in the previous game was not to be trifled with. In fact, it even did a lot of work in game number 1. So going into this game, getting that Amoonguss down, I think is a high priority if you are Victor. Matt just goes for the double protect here, is going to get a sense of what this Chi-Yu is trying to go for, who Victor's primary target is. We do see that Snarl come out of the Chi-Yu. I'm interested to see what the Koraidon goes for here. It could go for really any of its moves. They all do quite a bit of damage, and they all could be very effective. We do see the Collision Course. It was going into the Calyrex slot. If the Calyrex terastallizes to try to mitigate the Snarl damage, the Collision Course will take it, will then take it out. So that means that Amoonguss likely would not get KO'd. Victor is not trying to target down this Amoonguss, at least on that turn. Victor was not trying to target down the Amoonguss with the Snarl plus the Collision Course. And now a Flare Blitz plus a Snarl, I don't know if it'll take out the Amoonguss. It certainly could, but that doesn't seem to be Victor's primary target. So that kind of gives Matt a little bit of wiggle room with what he wants to do with that Amoonguss, or at least with that slot. Either maybe you can bring something in a little bit safer, or you can start throwing some stuff around with the Amoonguss. So Matt goes for the Terastallization on the Calyrex at this turn, going for that Terra Dark. Again, that's going to mitigate Snarl damage, but it makes it more vulnerable to Fairy and Dark type, or Fairy and Fighting type attacks, which Victor has some pretty strong ones on his side. Now, we see a Terastallization from Victor here. If this is a Terra Fire on the Koraidon, this could be Victor now saying, okay, targeting the Shadow Rider on turn 1 didn't work. We're going to target the Amoonguss now and try to take it down. Terra Fire Flare Blitz in Sun with Orichalcum Pulse active could do a ton. Snarl comes through. It's going to lower Calyrex's special attack, which is pretty big, even though it doesn't do much damage. And now we're going to see where this Koraidon is going. Astral Barrage is going to come out. It's going to do a decent chunk of damage, but far, far less thanks to that Snarl. Koraidon takes a lot, but stays alive. Chi-Yu only takes a little bit. Flare Blitz comes through for this Koraidon now. Would not be surprised to see this go into the Amoonguss. That's exactly where it's going, and it should take it out. Amoonguss is down. It does not get to get that Spore off, but Calyrex Shadow Rider is on the field and alive right now, and this Koraidon is going to be taking a ton of recoil damage, and it just takes itself out. Thanks to that Rocky Helmet plus the recoil, the damage from the Astral Barrage was just enough for the Koraidon to go down. So Sun is only going to be up for a few more turns here. If Matt can outlast it, then I believe the Shadow Rider should outspeed Fluttermane by the end of the game if this Calyrex Shadow Rider can stay alive. Now, notably, Calyrex is still at -1. That is going to be big. If Matt can get a safe switch out and switch back in, that will put Shadow Rider back up at neutral, which could be game defining. We see Chi-Yu come on out. This Fluttermane cannot terastallize into just Fairy, so Snarl here from Matt's Chi-Yu could be pretty big, but also the opportunity to just click super high damage moves like Heat Wave and Overheat is just really incredibly tempting here. I'm very interested on which Chi-Yu is going to move first. It entirely could just come down to a speed tie. A lot of times when you have Choice Scarf, you're going max speed plus whatever speed boosting nature fits. And sometimes you might also just say, you know what? I'm fast enough. Let me take some stat points out. Let me change up my nature to go for max special attack since we don't have those choice specs. We see Calyrex go for the Protect. It's going to be avoiding any potential Moon Blasts. And Matt's Chi-Yu. Okay, so Fluttermane with this Photosynthesis boost is the fastest thing on the field. That, I'm not going to lie, is a little crazy to me. Fluttermane is nuts. Snarl gets hits into the Protect here. Does it hit into the Chi-Yu? It does. So Matt's Chi-Yu is going to be doing less damage. Now, the Overheat's come through. This is a lot. This is still going to be a lot, but Fluttermane is able to tank it. And now Chi-Yu is at -3 special attack. So, for Matt, you know your Chi-Yu is not going to be moving faster than the opposing Fluttermane. The question is it going to outspeed the opposing Chi-Yu this time? Is it a speed tie, or was your Chi-Yu simply worse? Now, if you're Matt, you do have the potential to try to go for a double Protect again. It's cheeky. I don't think you can get away with it 2 times in one game. I think you kind of used your luck in that game number 2 here. Now, if you are feeling lucky, if you think your Chi-Yu can get the job done here against the opposing Fluttermane, swapping out your Shadow Rider is not the worst thing in the world. You know that Victor's Chi-Yu is locked into Snarl, and it does not have an insane damage output right now. It's going to do decent chunks to your Fluttermane, but you know that your Fluttermane is probably going to be able to take it. The Dazzling Gleam comes through, it takes out Matt's Chi-Yu, and it does quite a bit to Matt's Fluttermane. Now, Victor's Chi-Yu gets to go for that Snarl. This might just do it, but another missed Snarl. That is so tough if you are Victor, but honestly, I'm not sure if it matters. Fluttermane is still on the field. I think Matt does have the opportunity to go for double Protect here. I think this might be the last turn of Sun. If it is, that puts Matt in a really, really nice position. Chi-Yu will get a Snarl off, but Astral Barrage should be able to take out the opposing Fluttermane, and Matt can go for Dazzling Gleam of his own, can go for Icy Wind to get a little bit more speed control. That could be big. Thunder Wave as well could be really, really useful for speed control, making sure things get much, much slower. We see the Fluttermane go for Protect for Matt. The same is going to happen for the Calyrex here. Like I said, I think this is the last turn of Sun. If it's not, then it's the second to last turn, but that could be big. I think that's the biggest thing right now. If the Sun wears out, I think Matt is in a phenomenal spot. Even down a Pokemon, even with the Calyrex with some damage on it, even with your Fluttermane at below half health, Chi-Yu uses Snarl here. It's still going to be able to get that off. That's the one thing that Matt's not going to be able to stop next turn, although Matt could certainly avoid it next turn. So, what happens? And the Sunlight fades. That is going to take off the photosynthesis boosts, my apologies, for both Fluttermanes. However, Matt is the one that still has booster energy. So this Fluttermane is going to now be Matt's Fluttermane specifically is now going to be the fastest thing on the field. It can go for Icy Wind. As long as that doesn't miss, and this is a max speed Calyrex, then I think that might make the Chi-Yu slower. At the very least, I think the Thunder Wave would. I think the Thunder Wave would guarantee that Chi-Yu is slower, but it has an even lower chance of hitting than the Icy Wind. We see Victor withdraw the Chi-Yu, doesn't want to risk losing it yet, and Wheezing comes out now. So, notably, Booster Energy still makes this Fluttermane faster. The speed advantage already happened. Actually, maybe it doesn't. Maybe I'm insane. We see the Astral Barrage come out. Wheezing goes low. Fluttermane goes down. I don't know if Wheezing is the Pokemon that's going to be able to win it here for Victor. With that Grim Neigh, that puts Calyrex at +1 now. It loses a little bit of its HP, but again, I'm not sure that is going to matter here. Icy Wind doesn't take down Wheezing, but it does drop its speed. Victor's going to be able to bring in the Chi-Yu. Is the Chi-Yu fast enough, and is it going to be able to deal enough damage to deal with both the Calyrex and the Fluttermane? That second missed Snarl in the same match for Victor could once again define this series. For Matt, if this depending on which is faster, the Chi-Yu or the Flutter Mane here, Icy Wind alone could win this game. Icy Wind or Thunder Wave on its own could win this game. Chi-Yu is going to go down to an Astral Barrage here, I am almost certain. Actually, you know what? Maybe it won't. With the Calyrex getting to +1 here, that could be enough. I believe the last time that the last time Calyrex went for some damage onto that Chi-Yu, it was already at a -1. Heat Wave comes through, hits the Calyrex hits the Calyrex Protect, and I don't think it's hitting the Flutter Mane here. Victor, just when you have these moves that can miss, having that dice roll not go in your favor is absolutely huge, and Matt's move that can miss doesn't miss. Chi-Yu's speed falls, and now it is once again going to be this Calyrex that gets to throw out some damage. Notably, Beads of Ruin is not active here. Victor gets another Protect off with the Wheezing, which, not the worst thing in the world, but here comes the Astral Barrage. Chi-Yu's going to take quite a bit here. I don't know if it's going to be enough to take it out. A potential Moonblast would probably finish it off if that was the case, but no, the Chi-Yu goes down, and it's a critical hit. It might have mattered, but I'm not certain if it did. If you're Victor, it feels like all of the cards were just against you today. And with a Wheezing on 1 HP on the battlefield for Victor, this is the last Pokemon that he was able to bring. Matt Maynard, with a lot of skill and a decent helping of luck, is able to make it to your round of 16. The epic highs and lows of the Pokemon VGC there. If you're Matt, you got to play to your outs, and those Snarls missing, that Heat Wave missing. I don't know if the Heat Wave would have actually taken out the Flutter Mane. Like I said, the more sportive Pokemon is, it's usually a little bit bulkier, not as damage focused and not as speed focused, usually one of the two. I'm not sure with Galarian Wheezing being on the field if Beads of Ruin doesn't have Flutter Mane special defense, and Flutter Mane has a lot of special defense. I know Chi-Yu is fast, but there was no Sun. Even if that Heat Wave hits, I'm not sure it takes out the Flutter Mane. The Snarl's missing, though. That was game defining. Both game 1 and game 3, Matt Maynard was able to take advantage of those misses to, in game 1, run away with the game. In game 2, get back into it, and then finally crest that hill. So the next thing we're going to be looking at is the round of 16, and then we'll be getting closer and closer to that ever exciting grand finals. But until next time, y'all, be safe, be smart, make wise decisions, and farewell.